pretty excited about that kind of stuff, and I think it's something that the listeners might like to see as well. But without further ado, here's our interview with Zac Brown.
Oh, I was born
Okay.
good.
Well, we're very happy to be joined by Zac Brown, the father of wolf puppies, the fecal fishing guide, if you follow him on Instagram. How's it going?
It's going well. How's it going with you guys?
Not too bad, can't complain. I'd be happy to be up where you are, but now I'm in my basement.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it'd be a lot better if I had some wolf pups or some big fish just out the door there for me. But
Yeah, no, it's a good time between wildlife. We actually just had a bear in camp, 2 days ago? That was a jumbo. But yeah, whether it's wildlife or fishing, there's definitely a lot to be had up here.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess just for the people who don't know who you are or don't follow you on Instagram and whatnot, kind of what lodge are you up at, and what do you do there?
Yeah, so right now I'm stationed at Sparks Lake Lodge, and that's kind of like a sister lodge. This is a lot. It's our first operational year. It's a kind of a branch off from Lac-Lamart Lodge, and I've been up there. This would have been my 11th season with them, and this is located Northwest Territories, about 150 air miles southeast of Yellowknife. And yeah, I'm a fishing guide up there. I do more stuff as well on shore, whether that's doing plumbing, construction, helping out, working with marketing a little bit with the lodge. And yeah, we got clients this week and first clients of the year, and hoping to have a busy summer. We're hoping that border opens, and then it'll be crazy busy. But yeah.
Yeah, we've had a couple guides on here or people related to that kind of industry, and that's definitely the main thing, is hoping those borders open up again, because that's huge business for you guys, eh?
Yeah, I mean, the majority of our clientele, if you have 150 clients up in an operating year, probably 140 will be Americans. So when that border's closed, that's
oh
a
wow,
huge shut off. Yeah, I mean, some lodges are able to get more Canadians. We've always kind of focused on the American clientele because it's so strong. And this year, kind of, I think we're maybe realizing we need to invest more into that Canadian clientele because they're definitely there. You just got to put the time in. But yeah, we're definitely hurting as far as business. We still got some Canadians booked, which is good, but definitely the majority is waiting on that border.
Yeah,
I don't know.
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say things are kind of looking promising, like with the vaccination rollout and the talk of borders opening and that kind of stuff. So it's looking promising for come July here maybe, or that type of thing. But yeah, definitely a big aspect. I mean, I don't know, what lake are you on again? Okay, so you're at Sparks
So
Lodge. What lake is that?
yeah, so it's Sparks Lake Lodge is the name of the lodge, and that's at Sparks Lake. It's
Oh, okay, so the lake is actually
yeah,
called
Sparks Lake, yeah. And this is kind of like I wouldn't.
Well, that makes sense. Stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's got lake trout and pike here. It's a really, really deep lake in comparison to what I'm used to before. So it's a lot more learning, finding fish, finding where they're at. And we get spoiled at Lac-Lamart, which I've been a part of for almost 10 years now. And there, I mean, you can catch lake trout, trolling in 50 feet of water with no downriggers, using pretty much about anything. And here, you're fishing anywhere from 50 to 100 feet, so it makes you work a little harder. You got to learn where the fish are moving in and out of. Same as the pike. The pike can go deep, so it's a little bit different from what I'm used to, but it's a pretty good fishery.
So are you guys the only people up there, really? Like, you and your guests are the only ones that
Yeah,
fish it?
yeah. The only Correct. Yeah, only lodge on the lake. This lodge has been vacant for I think about 10 years, 11 years, and before that it was very low key. It was kind of just like a mom and pop shop. A guy had come up here, put a lot of work into it, and brought a lot of his friends. Very few actual guests per se.
Okay.
So it's pretty much untouched. A lot of their lake still to explore, and a lot of the lake I'm sure hasn't been fished at all. So it can make for some pretty exciting fishing times. And when you have fish that have never seen a lure before, you can get away with a lot. So.
Oh yeah, because you'd have, like you said, it's been 10 years. You'd have some fish that could be 8 or 9, 10 that haven't seen anything like that, right?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. Correct. So. Yeah,
Just
you'd be able to go. We were in a bay today, and yeah, you're casting, and there's 4 or 5 falling behind it, and it's just about as soon as you slow down, you're going to hit it. It's rare that we've seen any fish that actually won't eat anything that you actually got to try and be like, oh, throw this on or throw a soft plastic or bring up the fly rod. Basically, if it's a piece of metal, which we've been throwing spoons because it's been so easy, you catch them 2 or 3 times if you really wanted.
Wow.
So, yeah, you can get away with a lot. Even if you're not a great fisherman, you can come out looking pretty good.
Just curious, because I've seen you fishing down here around Regina, in the Quappelle Lakes and that kind of stuff. Where are you from, and kind of like how did you get into the whole guide situation? Like you mentioned, you've been up there for 10 plus years. So how did you actually like get started?
Yeah, so actually we did a lot of fly-in fishing with my dad back when I was under 14. So basically kind of do it yourself. I'm sure there's lots of options up there down there in Saskatchewan where they fly you in, they drop you off with your gas, your propane. You kind of do it yourself, right? You got a few spots on a map, you got your main lodge, you do all your cooking. We did that with my dad quite a few years. A lot of walleye, a lot of pike, and I always loved it. And then when I was back home, I grew up in Fort McMurray, and there's a Clearwater River there, which is a pretty big river, and I was fishing there every day in the summer whenever I could. Always like kind of do-it-yourself lodges, and then we finally went to a lodge that had guides, and that was at Lake Athabasca, Indian Head Lodge. And we went there for a trip, a 6-day trip, and at the end of it, I was like, I didn't want to leave. And I kind of made friends with the guides. I mean, I didn't really know much about guiding or even knew that was a thing. I was like, man, that's kind of cool. You get to drive a boat and watch people catch fish. I was like, that's sweet. And my dad asked, or my dad was like, would you want to work kind of thing? And he's like, well, you should go ask the manager. So I asked if I could come back and work or help out or learn or just do anything. And he said, sure. So I came back there and worked for 2 weeks, kind of just doing oil changes, camp maintenance, cleaning up, just doing odds and ends. And they really liked me, and I really took a liking to it, got time on the water, and I actually met another Saskatchewan guy, Cody Forsberg, there, and he taught me a ton about lake trout fishing, Bondi baits, and I learned a lot. And then the following year I got to go back and guide. So I actually got time on the water with guests and stuff. And once you get experience on big water like that, that's a big help. I mean, that's probably the hardest thing, I think, to teach somebody. Boat handling, fishing, all that stuff's pretty easy, but when it comes to big water, that can be challenging. And so I was up there, worked for a year, and then the following year, new ownership, they weren't using the runway anymore, and they didn't want to use float planes, so I was out of job. And I was at the Fort McMurray trade show, and there was a lodge there, and I'd never heard of this lodge before, and I just walked up and said, hey, you need guides. I didn't even know this place was located. And they said, sure. And at that time, I was 18. I guess I looked like I was 14. These guys didn't. They thought, who the heck's this little kid? And they hired me, and that was in 2011. And that's at Lac La Martre Lodge, and then I've been there, for the past 10, 11 years. And that was doing lots of fish guiding, and then I got into the hunting guiding as well later on because the owner did some hunting outfitting. And so that in my belt, and then got into more hunting outfitting, and then just stayed with the fish guiding every summer. And this would be my 12 years consistently at a lodge, spending my summer. So it's always weird because people talk what they do in the summer. I'm like, man, like the lodge life is all I know, and I love it.
Yeah.
It'd be weird, having a quote unquote regular summer back at home because I'm just so used to the guiding and what happens at the lodge. Yeah. So that's basically how I came to find my way in it, and now it's been able to be a career because I'm able to, do your bear guiding and then your fish guiding, and then do your whitetail and moose in the fall, and then also to do shows for the lodge, for the fishing lodge, so then travel to the States and go to Chicago or Pennsylvania and sit and talk to people about what we have to offer here. So it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I found kind of interesting. Like, I'm pretty sure I've followed you for quite a while on Instagram there, and just kind of watching through the posts and stuff. And that was one thing I found pretty cool, is I could tell that you, like, totally nothing against it, you weren't just a guide, right? Like, you weren't just up there and only guided. Like, there's so much more that you did on top of just guiding fish in the summer kind of thing. And I always thought that was pretty cool, and you're pretty good about showing people that as well on the Instagram, whether it's the wolf puppies or things like that, just showing, and like on your stories, all the different work that you're having to do up there. I don't think, like I've always thought that'd be a cool job to have, but you don't think about all the other things you got to do, right? Like you're up there, there's not much else for help other than the people you have right there, right? So I think lots of people maybe don't realize that, but I think that's something cool that you show on your socials.
Yeah, no, I try to, and I think I mean, we're always our worst critic, and I'm always, should I do this? Should I post this? Because it's always like there's so much that goes on that I probably think of it as like kind of boring, but I mean, like you said, there's a ton that goes into the lodge, right? Whether it's building cabins or building a dock or getting the boat ready, and or the cool things you find. But yeah, I try to keep people involved and kind of take a step back and realize, I mean, it's a unique, I think, career and lifestyle. It's definitely worth sharing.
Yeah, for sure. I think dating back to, I think one of the first things I saw from you was the huge Savage Gear trout, 4-lake trout.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long ago that was, but I think that was probably one of the first things I remember seeing, at least, and watching those videos and stuff. So that stuff's all pretty cool. If people haven't checked it out, be sure to. Some of those huge Savage Gear lures and the trout just chomp.
Yeah, that one did well, because that was, it was interesting, because even like talking about lake trout lures, I mean, Bondies, which was introduced to me from Cody there at Lake Athabasca. And then I came to Lac La Martin, I brought these Bondies, and it was one of those things. It's like, what are those? Like, have you guys ever seen them? I probably have one here handy. They don't look like much, but they catch big lake trout. And I mean, people are like, I mean, why would those ever work? And then before you know it, I mean, we're actually selling them at the lodge because they're such a hot item. And then same as those Savage Gear baits, I mean, we're using 16-inch lures to catch these lake trout. And for a lot of people, you mean, they're used to, using a small spoon, but where we're at, there's very little pressure, and there's so many big lake trout that you want to catch the big ones, so you use a big bait. But yeah, in that video, I pulled 20 and a 30-pound lake trout with these giant baits, and it's tough not to finish watching the video, because right away you're like, well, why would you ever use that, right? And there's a big bait there.
Well, I think Logan, one of our last guests here, Gord Pizer, I don't know if you tuned into those episodes or not, but he talked about Bondi baits too, and I think Logan actually got a little package from Gord.
Should I go get it? Sitting right across the room from you here, yeah.
Did you get, I got one right here. Did you get a Bondi, or did you get a, what kind? Did you get a mini wobbler? Did you get a regular size one?
I'll go grab one.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, I know Logan was touching on a lake trout trip that he did in the past, and Gord had mentioned Bondis, and they had a little conversation about it, and I've never fished lake trout before, so I'm kind of a little blinded by the topic. And Gord says, well, send me your mailing address. I'm going to send you a little package. And Logan got a bunch of them in the mail from Gord, so I know he's excited to.
No, they definitely work great.
Give them a go.
Even for pike fishing, right? The people don't realize. I mean, they're originally a musky lure, right? And they're used for jigging in the rivers down by Ontario area and Detroit River. And yeah, they work well. And they got that little spinner blade, and I think they, look enough like a dying fish, and enough for them to go up and just hammer them.
So, item number 1 in show and tell here. I'm pretty sure this is the mini, right? If you can see that.
Yep. Oh, you got a bleeding heart. Ooh.
Yeah. So
I have yet to have one of those. I kind of want that now.
Well, what's your mailing address? Logan will send you a package.
Yeah, in Gord's world.
I have. Don't get me started with Bondies. If there's one lure I have a lot of, there is a lot of Bondi baits in this room.
Yeah, and then they got the black
nice,
as well
nice.
Mixed with this one. So one of them, I'm kind of starting to build up a, I don't know what you'd call it, like a collection of things. So I won a signed Dustin Bufflin FXR fishing jersey. And then I've got 100th anniversary bait caster from another company, and then I've got this signed card from Gord, and I think one of these might go in that collection, probably one of the magnums, and then I'll just replace it. But kind of a little bit of a memorabilia thing. But yeah, I was trying to use them for lake trout. My buddy's family, they just bought a lodge up north two falls ago, I think. And so we were up there for the first time, and I went to cast out one of the minis, and this is those odd casts where it just snaps before anything could happen. You just watch it soar. That happened with that one. Hadn't caught a fish on it yet, and so I was telling Gord about that, and he was nice enough to hook me up with these. So
nice.
I'll be giving them a try. Actually, I'm going up north, drive-in trip at the end of the month here. So I'll be trying out some Bondies and stuff for some Lakers. But
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you
There's
probably
the
should
show
catch
tell.
them for sure.
Well, that kind of sidetracked things there, but I guess when it actually one thing I wanted to ask you, when it's just lake trout and pike in there, right?
Yes, lake trout and pike in this lake. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess what's the biggest that you've seen come out of, I guess, either of the lakes, seeing as you've only been at this one for a short amount of time?
The big, obviously, there's always, so and so caught this big one, and then it's like, well, was that for sure? And then it's like, well, was the numbers off? And I'm always trying to give the most realistic perspective to clients, and I always want to try to have my numbers right and make sure that, that report or that fish was as big as what it was. The longest pike that I know of come out of Lac La Martre was 52 inches. And we get, it depends, right? Every year is different. I mean, we've had years where you get maybe at the lodge we'll boat 5 over 50 in a year, and then I've seen it where we don't boat any for 2 years, right? So it comes and it goes. The heaviest was 36 pounds. I had the privilege of being able to guide that. It was a 47-inch fish that had just fed and was caught mid-September, just built like a tank. That was pretty incredible. And then for pike, for lake trout, we get a handful of lake trout over 42, that 43-inch range every year. That's usually about 35, 36 pounds. We don't have any super giants. Like when I say super giants, I guess it's all relative, right? Like a 36-pound lake trout is still a giant lake trout. Mm-hmm. But our lake is limited as far as depth. So we have a stupid amount of 15 to 30-pound lake trout, which is awesome action for any lake trout fisherman. But we don't seem to get it over that 35-pound mark, that 44, to that 46 range. I don't know if it's just a limit on how deep the lake is, but we just seem to kind of tap out there. So yeah, pretty big fish. I mean, anything over 30 pounds is a pretty hefty fish for any angler.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that, like, I guess when you say no monsters, you could be talking about the Lake Athabasca fish, right? Like
like Lake Athabasca or Great Bear, right? When you want to start talking about lake trout over 50 pounds, I mean, on a yearly basis. I mean, those fisheries with just how deep they are and how big, I mean, they're constantly doing that. It sounds like, so that's pretty special. But
yeah, wouldn't say no to that. That's for sure.
No, but it's So and what we do actually is we have a 2020 club at Lac La Martre, and what that does is that allows people to catch a 20-pound pike and a 20-pound lake trout. And it kind of started a long time ago, and it's kind of an old boys club, but we've kind of carried on the tradition, and most people do that, if not more. And then we also do like a 30-30 club. So if you can get a 30-pound lake trout, a 30-pound pike. I mean, I'd say almost everybody gets a 20-pound lake trout, a 20-pound pike. Some guys will, get a 25-pound lake trout and a 25-pound pike. But to get a 30-30 is pretty hard to do. But there's a lot of 30-pound lake trout that do get caught, and then it's obviously very tough to hit that 30-pound pike mark.
Yeah, for sure. Especially being all the way up there with how, like, pretty well everyone knows how slowly fish grow as the more you go north, right? So those are some old fish up there, and everyone has their benchmarks of like, it's half a pound a year here and a pound down south or stuff like that. But whatever way you roll it, that's still an old fish, especially up there. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like you said, I think the further you go north, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no worries. You go ahead. I was just switching topics here.
Oh no, yeah. Like you said, I think the further you go, I think people say like half a pound north of us, and then where we're at, we have a lot of whitefish, and I think that's able to help the fish grow a little faster. So you can have, a 20-pound fish that can have a 5-pound whitefish digested, and right away, and then there you're at a 25-pound mark. Mm-hmm. It also has to do with, we're a little bit warmer too, I think. The colder lakes, when you start getting into further Northwest Territories, that's when you're going to start seeing a drastic, slower growth.
Yeah. I guess before you change it, Brandon, do you ever have many days where you're hurting for a bite, or is it just it's more of a size kind of thing?
So it's always interesting, right? When you're talking to people, people ask, okay, well, what's a good day of fishing? I'm like, man, well, you can't go off of a good day of fishing. I think you need to go off what's your average day of fishing, right? Because that's what it is, right? And for an average day fishing, I mean, there's lots of numbers. I mean, I don't think we have shortage of fish. I mean, when I talk to people and I tell them, we'll probably catch over 100 fish a day between two people, and they're like, well, really? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, that's not. I mean, that's work for me as a guide. So I'm more about quality. If I can get 50 fish, that the majority of them are heavier, then that's a win in my books. But there is days where typically after a storm front comes in or you have a big blow. The lake kind of turned over, and we've struggled, when you're in your spot where there should be, 25 to 50 fish in one little bay, and there's nothing. So even the best fisheries, when you have these isolated fly-in only lodges, I mean, you still have those conditions that can totally change the lake around where, you'd be hurting to try to get your shore lunch eater fish for the day. You definitely do see that, but it's rare, right? And that's what makes it so special, because you do have those consistent days of fishing from day in and day out, right? In a 80-day, 90-day season, you're maybe going to see 2 to 3 days where you're like, wow, that was a really hard day of fishing.
Yeah, no, for sure. That makes sense. That's the north for you, I guess, in lots of places.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So the direction I was just going to go is because, like, obviously here, late ice and into the spring there, you were kind of around our neck of the woods, and you were chasing big pike and stuff around here. And compared to where you are in the Northwest Territories and when you're fishing down here, kind of what's the biggest pike that you've come across around our neck of the woods down here?
Yeah. So when I was down there, we didn't weigh, we measured, and I think we got a handful between that 42 to that 43 inch range, and I had caught one that I figured was close to 30 pounds. I mean, I like to think I have a fair idea of what it was. It was a heavy fish. I mean, but the quality I found was incredible down there. Was just the average fish, right? Well, I didn't get many under 35 inches, and you mean a lot around that 38-inch range. And if that 38-incher, late ice is, is pushing to over 20 pounds quite often. So, I mean, that's a pretty good fight on tip up. But I think 30 pounds we kind of guessed at was that fish weighed. But no, a lot of low high teens, low 20s.
Yeah. No, and there's like anybody that hasn't tuned into, like, you do have a YouTube channel and you do disperse quite a bit of content on there as well. And I mean, there's some videos of that late ice fishing around here, and I think there's even one where you're not even wearing pants. So, I mean,
the OnlyFins.
Yeah, the OnlyFins video. Yeah, we got to get that rolling, eh? You wanted to get that app out there?
Yeah, you could sell waypoints, if people subscribe, right? You could sell fishing lures or anything that would be hard to come by over you have to subscribe to like a monthly subscription.
OnlyFins page. Yeah. No, that one cracked me up too that was a good idea.
Well, what was happening was funny. It was because I caught this giant fish and it was super warm. And my pants were soaked because, like, I had the fish and I was just down in the slush of the snow and I was soaked. And I was like, whatever, I'll just dry my pants out in the quad. Yeah. And I left them there to dry, and it was like 15 degrees high that day. And I was like, well, I'll just keep my pants off. And then I was like, I had the camera going, and I was like, it won't be that big of a deal. And I'll just try to keep it high, and then I could try to edit it out. And then it was like, you know what, big deal. Who cares? I mean, I think hopefully people are watching it for the fish and not my underwear anyway. So.
Most of us.
Yeah, and like, I mean, I don't know if you explained the situation or not on social media. I didn't see it or anything, but I was just like, I was a little curious on what the scenario was, and I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, that's typically not my normal fishing attire. I mean, I have been known to wear shorts, but typically I try to be clothed when I am guiding or fishing. Yeah.
No, not a bad idea. Yeah, no, I think that's one thing that people would really like if they haven't checked you out yet, is you have, like, I relearned how to fillet a pike the right way. Well, not the right way, the traditional way, by watching your video. This what was it? Probably late ice. Me and my buddy, we cooked up some fish in the Esso parking lot in Fort Capel and used that method. But I think that's the nice thing about your page, is you got the mixture of there's some serious, some good information, and then there's the OnlyFins and there's stuff like that, right? So it's a good mixture. But Yeah, I did want to mention that pike video because I used to know how to do it, and then it was really just walleye for a couple of years, and then Dad came up to me one day. He's like, check out this 5 fillet method for the pike, and then I did that on one of our canoe trips for school, and I had some people in the group. They're like, oh, I can't eat fish with bones in it. And I was like, well, this is my first time trying it this way, so let's see how she goes. And then that was the method I used a handful of times over the year, and then came across your video. I was like, this looks way better. Like, this is how it used to be and stuff. So thank you for that. And it did make the fillets a lot better and whatnot. So yeah, just useful content like that is what you can expect from you, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, I try to have a mix. I mean, I'm not a very serious guy, but I think that there's definitely some things that you can be taught or shown in a different way, and especially, I'm not good at a lot of things, but I like to argue that I'm good at filleting pike because I get to do it so much. So I was like, man, this technique, because you see a lot of people try different ways, and I'm like, I like this better, so I just try to show that. But yeah, try to be balanced, try to be funny, try to have not to take things too seriously, especially it is fishing overall.
Yeah. So is that your typical shore lunch fish would be pike?
Yeah, where we're at,
Yeah.
pike and lake trout. It's funny because, I mean, here the pike it's much deeper lake compared to Lac Lamart, and the lake trout actually tastes different at Lac Lamart. And the lake trout here are much better because it's a deeper, colder fish. At Lac Lamart, the average depth is only 28 feet. That's what I attribute it to. I'm not sure for sure as to why they taste just a little bit just off. They don't have that good natural taste to them. So normally we'd always go for pike. So yeah, a 6 to 8 pound fish is usually lots for 3 guys in a boat, and yeah, that's our go-to every day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it would end up like you're doing that every day pretty well, right? Anytime I've been on a fly-in, it seems like every day is a shore lunch, so you got to be you're gonna be doing that every day.
Mucking a lot of pike.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of fish get filleted over the years, especially I mean, if you have a fry for the lodge or something, which we try to incorporate into our menu. So yeah, I mean, you're cleaning fish at least once or twice a day.
Yeah, that's a lot. Now, speaking about your social media and your content and stuff, like obviously recently you had a little run-in with some wolf pups. I mean, it's not fishing related, but I'm curious, like, what was that like, and like, what was the experience with that?
It was crazy, yeah. So where we're at, this lodge, I mean, we've been building it up and fixing it up for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
This is our first operational year, like I mentioned. And 2 years ago, we actually found a wolf pup here. We were walking down the area, and I came across one, and I was like, whoa, what was that? I didn't know what it was. And I kind of cornered it and grabbed it, and I noticed right away it was a wolf puppy. And we couldn't take it out. I mean, you're not supposed to handle wildlife, but it was kind of an awkward situation. We were like, well, we've got to do something with it. And I thought, well, Mom might or may not be around. We let it go, catch and release, and hopefully she got picked up by Mom. So that was, I mean, we had that wolf puppy encounter 2 years ago, and I was like, man, that's crazy. And then last year we're here again, and more adult wolves howling and around camp, and they're obviously in the area. We find old wolf scat all around the lodge, and then we arrived this year. Within the first 6 hours of being at camp, we were all just getting stuff up, unloading the plane, whatnot, and I peeked under the cabin. No, I saw some feet under the cabin, like some hairy feet, and I thought, oh, it must have been a marten or a mink, because those are quite common around here. And I stuck my head under, and the owner, Greg, was near me, and I looked over, and I looked under and looked back at him like, dude, there's 6 of them. He's like, 6 what? I'm like, 6 wolf pups. He's like, what? And we stuck our head under there, and sure enough, there's these 6 puppies just all kind of looking at us like, what's going on? And then we were like, oh no, like these puppies were all living under our main lodge where we eat and move in and out of, so it wasn't like we could abandon the area. And we're like, well, how are we going to get them out of there? What are we going to do? And we had different plans and tried different methods. And initially we were like, well, we could wait. Hopefully Mom will come back and grab them. And the one night, Mom did come into the yard. Like I woke up, opened up my cabin, and I saw this big black wolf run across the yard. So I thought, oh, great, maybe she grabbed a bunch and took them away. And so we went to the den and waited, and sure enough, 6 came out. So we're like, well, she didn't grab any of them. And so we decided to pack them up and get them in a tote and carry them away to where we know that we've seen them run back and forth. And back it up, we've seen other wolves as well on the ice near the lodge. So they were definitely around the lodge, like this is their den where they've been used to. And if you know anything about wolves, I mean, they're a pack animal, and they're heavily involved with the pups. I mean, they're constantly bringing in food, and they're constantly feeding. So there's a lot of wolves coming and going. So we had to move them obviously away so that Mom could come and get them. So we packed them out of tote, moved them down, set up a trail camera, and which did not work, which I was very disappointed in. And then, she came and grabbed 5 of them. And it was like late at night, and there was one there, and I was like, man, what are we gonna do with this? I can't put it back under the lodge. And I was like, well, I'm gonna have to take this one to bed and let it sleep with me. I got to get that experience at least once.
Yeah.
And it was pretty surreal. I mean, this pup was just, it was really, really cuddly. It was almost like overly cuddly, and I felt like it was
just like a house
latching
puppy.
on a little bit more, just like a house puppy. But I kept that for a night, fed it a little bit, and then can't really keep them, so we brought him back, and Mom came and grabbed him, which was nice. And then since then, we've seen 3 or 4 other adult wolves, and we haven't seen the pups, but I have seen wolf tracks with puppies all around them, up and down the runway here.
Oh,
so that is good. I mean, they're obviously picked up kind of out of our hair. It's kind of bittersweet. I mean, they're nice having them around, but it's nothing you can really do as far as keep them. But it was cool. I mean, when I first found one a couple years ago, I never thought that would happen. Then to find 6 at even a younger age was
I think
pretty
that's
crazy.
When you said earlier here in the show that you've been up there, you've been up north for so many years, right? You don't really know what maybe a normal summer is, or don't remember what one's like, kind of thing. And then when you said you open up your door in the middle of the night and you see a big black wolf strolling through camp, and your first thought is, "Oh, good." I'm like, I don't know if that'd be my first thought, but you're used to that, right? It's a part of life up there, so.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of these places that I think was so isolated and no one's been around. I mean, I don't even know if these wolves know what human activity is or humans are, right? So, yeah, pretty crazy.
And no, you've never being up north there in the Northwest Territories, you've never had an encounter, a bad encounter with wildlife, whether that be a bear, wolf, or anything like that, eh?
No, nothing bad. I mean, we have issues with bears that won't leave camp, and then we have to take care of them. But we've never had anything overly bad. I mean, that's just something that I think comes from, being somewhere where there's obviously going to be wildlife interaction, and wildlife, especially bears, they get a smell of something they don't want to leave. But no, nothing overly bad. I had a really cool experience actually a while back. I was thinking about this the other day, where we have a cabin set up at Lac Lamar across the lake, so the lake trout are spawning. Fishermen have the opportunity to go spend 5 nights at this cabin in the middle of nowhere, which is way closer to where the trout are spawning. And we camp out there, and then it was just like a quick boat ride to where all the fish are. But when we were spending a few nights there, we had a bear that was running around, and then we had a wolf come in. And this is back before, I mean, I was more keen on trying to get cool videos, but this bear and this wolf were within 20 yards of each other, kind of just hanging out, around the cabin, just smelling things and stuff. And it always puzzled me. It was one of those things where it's like, man, I don't know how common that is or why or what was going on there. But, I mean, I guess it's one of those things where maybe there's a lot we don't know because it's just something you never see or hear of.
Yeah, I guess I don't know a ton about bears. Is it just black bears up there?
Yeah, just black bears. I mean, to get your grizzlies, those would be barren grounds. That's further up in the Northwest Territories. They do come down. But where we're at, it's just black bears.
And I think, with Brandon asking about any bad encounters, I think that's a big thing, too, is you guys being up there, you got to respect those things as well, whereas maybe with there not being just your typical population of people who wouldn't know kind of thing, I feel like that's where maybe there's more potential for things to go wrong with encounters, when you have a larger population and people don't maybe take it as seriously or are as responsible with it. But I think that's one of the nice things about being up there, and like you said, how long you've been up there, to kind of stand your ground or stay clear of them if you can, and how to deal with them.
Yeah, you mean obviously try to inform guests. I mean, I think we always have them come to shore lunch. It's always interesting. There's an island, and we always have shore lunches there. Quite often you'll have bears come in, and usually you just got to throw a few rocks at them and they take off. But it's always it provides for at least some good entertainment when you got some Americans that are standing around, don't know whether this bear is going to eat them or not. But it's just more of a curiosity thing than anything with most black bears.
So is your when you're doing your guiding hunting, is that up there as well?
Yeah, so all the guiding I do for hunting all happens in Alberta. So that bear and stuff is all northern Alberta. Whitetail and moose is all Alberta as well, and then the fishing has always been in the Northwest Territories.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, and being from Fort McMurray, that's obviously that makes sense. And how far exactly of a flight is it then from home for you to get to the lodge then? Like,
yeah, so Yellowknife is the hub, so WestJet, Air
Okay.
Canada, all our major flights obviously fly into there, and then from there it's an hour float plane ride to the lodge.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's not bad. You mean what? It's an hour and a half, an hour 45 from Edmonton to Yellowknife, and then another hour.
That's not bad at all.
not terrible, no.
Yeah, it's better than like the 6 hour or 7 hour drive lots of us in like southern Saskatchewan do just to get up to La Ronge or to Mississippi there and fly out, right? And then after that, for lots of people, it's about a half an hour flight, but you can definitely get those longer ones where you're up there for an hour and a half kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean it's nice having a short plane ride. I mean the float plane is just I think a lot of people, depending on what kind of style you fishing you do, but that's another cool aspect of this whole setup that we're doing and being so far north. So a lot of people have never been on a float plane, right, or been on a flight that takes you to a lodge and you land on an island, right? That's I think something that's easy for us to look at and be like, oh, you just fly into the lodge. But like, well, what do you mean? Like you land on the water, right? But yeah, I mean that's I think a pretty cool aspect of it as well.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I was gonna say for people who haven't been in a float plane. Like, there's lots of lakes, like we're lucky with that. But once you clear the top of the trees there and you start looking around, it's like, man, like the amount of water is here. And I'm always thinking, I've been up a couple times, and I'm always thinking like, I wonder if this lake's ever been touched. I wonder if that lake's ever been touched. Like, or what's in that lake? Has it ever been explored before? And I've always just wish you could just kind of drop down and try each one and kind of figure it out. But yeah, definitely a pretty cool experience.
Yeah. I always tell people, as soon as you get off map, you know what I mean, as soon as you're able to fly in somewhere, I mean, when they're looking at somewhere to go, you mean right away your pressure is going to be different. There's going to be less people fishing there, and you're probably going to have a better time. As soon as you can't drive in somewhere, well, you're going to have less people there fishing, so you'll probably have much more success in comparison to a place somewhere close where heavily populated.
Yeah, exactly. That pressure is a big thing, and even like where my family goes up to Otter Lake for the last, I think it's been at least 10 years, but that's like kind of one of the, not the last place people drive, but it's kind of like the most popular place that people will drive to, like the furthest they'll go in that area. And so it gets treated like a northern lake in the sense of how much people keep and stuff like that, and just think it's a free-for-all lots of the time. So that lake gets pressured quite hard, but I've just been doing a little exploring around there, whether it's half an hour from the lodge there, and there are lakes that hardly ever get touched, or you gotta walk in and canoe them, and just if you take the time and kind of explore things a bit, you can be quite surprised with what you might end up with. Even down in some of the more populated areas, there's everyone kind of, especially with the internet or podcasts like this, like we've talked about Last Mountain a fair bit, Diefenbaker, people hear that and like, oh, that's where you got to go to fish. But there's some gems that just don't get talked about much, right?
Yeah, that's true, right? And then even just how lakes are fished too, right? If you want to get specific about, when people say, oh, they fish Lake Diefenbaker or fish this, I mean, you really don't know how something is being fished and how well it's being fished, right? When everybody says, this is too many people or this, it's like, well, where is everybody fishing, right? Is everybody fishing in one spot? Are they fishing further down? Are they fishing closer? Yeah, I don't know. That's always an interesting topic when people are talking whether to go somewhere else because the fishing's not so good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's always about, it's very debatable as to how well they fished it and where they were fishing at it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I know we're keeping you from supper here. Do you want to hop into the Q&A a little bit?
Yeah, we can. I had one question. I had one question before we hop in. So, being, starting guiding at a young age, for maybe anybody that's listening that's, just getting out of high school or, is younger and wants to get into guiding, what kind of tips can you give for them, or kind of what can they, kind of do to move forward with a career like you have?
That's a good question. I think I get that a lot as far as people are like, man, that sounds like an awesome job. How do I get it, right?
Yeah.
The biggest thing I think is work ethic and attitude. One aspect about the lodge life that I think people don't realize is that you're living with people for, all summer, right? And it's not like a job where you go home 9 to 5, right? You're living with these people, right? You maybe not seen them on the water because they're on a different boat, but you come back and you're hanging out, and that lodge setting I think is an easy place for people, for emotions to run high. And the reason I touch on that is because if you're new starting out, having a good attitude, having a good work ethic goes a long way as far as learning what needs to be learned and getting along with people around you. Because the fishing stuff, the boating stuff, that all can be taught, right? That's something that I think, if you have, been fishing and you've been boating, it can teach you a lake and teach you where the fish are. But I think just always having, a good attitude and being willing to, maybe work a little harder and, learn more about the process of what's going on, I think is going to make you more desirable from an ownership or from a management perspective. And they're going to want that person in and around the lodge, because you're going to be, that much more, of a help of an asset to them. And even just, I think, not expecting much off the get-go. I think it's, if you have no experience, be honest about that. So often you see people that, we've seen it time and time again, where people show up and, I've guided here, I've done this, and are very quick to show their accolades and what they've accomplished. And, within very quickly you notice that if they're not what they made themselves up to be. But yeah, I'd always tell guys, sell yourself as just, wanting to work and you have a good attitude, and all these little things can be taught. It's the attitude that, is something that's, I think, much more personal, and people have to kind of, put yourself in that mindset going into it, and it's going to go a lot smoother.
Perfect. Yeah, that's awesome. I know because there's some guys around, our neck of the woods here that are younger, and I know a lot of them want to get into guiding, and obviously you've done it and you've been there and you've stuck around for a long time, so obviously you've been doing something right. So definitely some great pointers for sure. All right, now do you want to jump into the Q&A? We don't have a ton of diversity from from people that were putting in questions. Majority of them are people I think that you're fairly close with, that were just kind of saucing some jabs at you, or just wanting to ruffle your feathers. But we can go through a couple here. This one is from Chaz. He says, what's the best lure to catch bass on? I don't know how much bass fishing you do, but
I have done some bass fishing. We're talking about lures. Actually, just explaining this story the other day. I did some bass fishing in Florida. It was a year and a half ago with a good friend of mine, Sam Moore, who was down there picking up a boat at the time. But we were using just a bunch of crankbaits. I don't know if they were -1s, but just a bunch of old crankbaits that maybe dive to 3-4 feet. We were catching a lot of bass on those, but I was having more fun. We were actually telling the story. We were hooking alligators, which you weren't supposed to be doing. But I was like, dude, this is basic. I've been training all my life for this, right? I've been catching gators up north. This is the same thing. But yeah, bass fishing that's as far as my bass fishing experience goes, is that I can go and potentially catch alligators. So, not a big bass guy.
Now, you mentioned Sam Moore there. You mentioned he's a good buddy. I see you're actually wearing a fishing line hat.
Fishing limb.
How do you know him, and kind of where? I know this is kind of jumping away from the Q&A, but I'm curious.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like you guys, I think you were talking about how you met and started talking over Instagram, and I've had some great friends over the years. That's how we started talking, with Instagram. And because me and Sam, he came up to Lodge, did some video shooting, and then I went down there and did some fishing with him. And we were talking. We're like, dude, how did we start talking? And we're like, I think it was Instagram. And then we went back to the old messages years ago, and it was I think he reached out to me, and he was like, hey, man, like what you do, we need to connect in sometime. That was as simple as it was. Yeah. And then one thing led to another, and we're talking. He does video stuff, and then, he obviously started the line company, and then I picked up some of that, which I'm a big advocate of. And, Yeah, I mean it's amazing what social media does, right? There's obviously a lot of positive there when it comes to meeting people, especially like minds, whether it's fishing or hunting. And yeah, I mean it's a good way to connect in.
No, absolutely. I was scrolling through your Instagram feed earlier today, obviously, because I wanted to check out some of the stuff that you've done over the years, so we can maybe talk about. And I came across, a couple photos of you and Sam, and I was like, oh man, I wonder, because I didn't think you were from down in the States originally. I'm like, how did they connect? And yeah, it was kind of cool that I was kind of pieced together that he came up and did some media work for you guys at the lodge and whatnot. So that's kind of a cool story and connection on that, because I think he's pretty big into the outdoor fishing industry. He does a lot with some big companies down there in the States. So I mean, obviously being in a lodge that needs content, I mean, that's a good person to have in the network for sure. So
Oh, totally, yeah. Yeah, no, that was never ever my intention because it was always just like, it was more of a friendship, and then it was like,
yep.
he's like, man, it'd be cool to come do some video stuff, and then I was like, yeah, do it, and then yeah, so he came up and we got to catch lake trout on beer cans and stuff. It was a pretty good time.
Is that where the pike on an apple comes from?
No, that was just totally spur of the moment. That pike on an apple. We were in a bay and we were just like, it was nonstop fish. Like there had to be close to 100 pike, no giants, but like a lot of a 5 to 15 pound pike eating everything. And I was like, man, we should try it. See if they'll eat an apple. And they just right away threw an apple and they smashed it. And then I was like, what else can we get away with? And I threw a single hook out. And it smashed the single hook. And the cool thing was that it was a 40-incher that initially swung at it and missed it and then never came back. And then it was just another fish that came and hit it. But yeah, I mean, when you're like I said, when you're somewhere where there is no pressure, you're the only lodge on the lake, you're the only boat that's going into these bays, I mean, you can get away with a lot. I mean, you could be throwing next to literally nothing and these fish are still eating.
Yeah. Well, I guess this one kind of comes down the pipe. Probably just as much expertise with the bass question, but one of our former guests, Lane Meyer, he asked, would crab apples work for crabs?
That's probably. I haven't yet to fish for crab. I would think so.
Yeah. Well, we should probably ask you something that you have some knowledge in. So you've been really good. You've been really good about asking questions to our guests through the podcast here. I think it was one that you asked to Assorted Meats, I believe, right? You asked what if you had to choose one lake trout lure for the rest of his life, what one would it be? So I'm gonna kind of deflect that one back on you.
Wow. For the rest of my life, I'm only using one lake trout lure. Tough. I'm going to say it with because there's always, times of the year and things that are going on, but I would probably have to go with, today we were using Bondies today and we did well. I'd probably have to go with the Bondi for casting, for trolling, for jigging. I have to go with the Bondi.
Okay, I was going to say, if you want, you can split it up into favorite trolling lure and favorite casting, or jigging / casting, but yeah, no, that works. Doesn't surprise me either, though.
Okay, I think this one's just I don't know. What happens if you drop a fish in your boat?
Ooh.
Do you know who that one's from?
I don't know who that's from, but so being a fishing guide, I always say that the fish are my money makers. And the reason for that is because if these fish survive and these fish can be caught, clients are happy, and obviously I get tipped. And the fishery survives, and I can do this year after year. And a big thing of mine is, how to properly hold a fish, how to take a good fish picture, and all the little things that go into that. Yep. And a big thing, you see it a lot, especially with, experienced guests or even experienced guests, right? When you're holding on to a fish and the fish wants to move.
Yep.
I always tell people, if the only reason you drop the fish is because you let go. And don't let go. Don't let go of the fish. The fish moves, move with the fish, throw it overboard, but just don't drop the fish. The reason for that is because typically if the fish lands on a hard ground in the boat, the survival rate of that fish is next to nothing. And I don't care for a lot of things, but as a guide, I don't want the fish to die. So if a fish were to drop in the boat, I would be very angry, and depending on the person, I might vocalize that anger, or I might just keep it inside, and I wouldn't speak a whole lot to that person. I've been known to yell at people. I had a family member that I yelled at because it was one of those situations where like it was my sister actually that was holding this fish, and she's holding it. She's like, "Oh, Zach, it's good. It's moving. It's moving. It's moving." I said, "No, it's okay. You're fine. You're fine." No, Zach, I'm going to drop it. I'm like, "No, you're not. Like you're strong. Like hold on to it." And then she's like, "No, I don't know." And then it was just like she just dropped it. And then I said a few things to her, expressing my unhappiness.
Can't say on
about
air.
dropping the fish. No, I don't. No, I didn't swear. I definitely did not swear. But I was just I was in her face, talking to her in a loud voice. Yeah.
I think
That's fair.
I think that one
Sorry,
was
go ahead,
from
Brian.
your wife, Jess.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, she probably knows that because it's, yeah, I mean, there's not many things I think I'm pretty easy going with when it comes to fishing and a lot of things. Obviously, I'm intense about certain things, but dropping the fish is something I don't like to see.
There you go. Okay, I think that was a pretty good one. There is one more that kind of, I think is a question, Logan. Can you scope that one out?
I have no clue what one you're talking about. I'm sorry.
I'm curious about this one because I know it's coming from Lyndon Smith. He wants you to explain how to be a big walleye guy.
Yeah, so Lyndon knows a lot about walleye, but the tip-up stuff on walleyes is something that was new to him. And to be a big walleye guy, you need to catch walleye on tip-ups, specifically with scad, 10-inch scad.
Okay.
And I was able to do that, obviously, because I'm a huge walleye guy and knew exactly what I was doing. I was able to get a handful in the evening, preferably upside down. That's a big key. Treble hook, center body, about 10 inches off bottom, between the hours of 8 and midnight, and resulting in a lot of fish over 25 inches. With that recipe, I mean, then you can be a big walleye guy. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, Lyndon is good on the jigging side of stuff and the trolling side of stuff. I mean, I think he's got walleye down pat pretty easily. But when it comes to the tip-up stuff, that was something that he needed to be educated on.
So it'd be fair to say that he's a walleye guy, but not quite a big walleye guy yet.
Well, he's a big guy.
He's a big guy.
A lot of walleye fishing, so you could translate it to a big walleye guy. Yeah.
There you go.
Depends how you look at it, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that kind of closes out a lot of the questions that we had. I mean, a lot of them were repeats from those specific people, but we won't touch on a lot of those. Those might be getting a little personal, but.
Oh no, I got one. I got
some
one.
fire.
I think it's from your wife.
Hit me with it. Let's see what we got.
She says, "Tiny
Let's
dude
do it
or
all.
big
It's like
fish?"
the hot seat. Say that again.
She says, "Tiny dude or big fish?"
Ooh, that's a tough one, right? I mean, I think if anybody sees me in person, then they'd be able to answer that question. The biggest thing, as long as I stay on social media and it's just pictures and videos that no one really knows.
Yeah. No, that works. I guess one thing to kind of end this on, I guess, like lots of jokes and stuff, but for, like you said, how you are quite serious about fish handling and things like that. I think that's one thing that I'm big with too, is kind of like the conservation and just being ethical when it comes to lots of your interactions with wildlife in general, but for this fishing. What would be some of your things that you'd like to tell someone who maybe is newer? Like there's definitely a lot of people who are newer to fishing with COVID, or just some things that people could work on, because we both, or I guess all three of us probably know, you try and help someone nicely on Facebook, you get blasted for trying to help, or that person that's not handling it right gets blasted instead of constructive criticism. So kind of just to end things out here, like what would be some of your tips or kind of information that you'd like to share on that?
Don't drop the fish.
I think a bit. Don't drop the fish, number one. Don't drag the fish through the mud. I guess we all seen those pictures. No, I think a big thing is like, I mean, we've all been on the learning end of that process, because it's. I look back on even my guiding career, and you guys look back on how you handled fish. I mean, everybody takes a while to understand. I mean, you can teach. But a lot of it, I think, is people just slowly coming around, right? You look at like catch and release in general, right? Back in the day, everybody bonked fish, right? You talk about hanging fish vertically, right? Everybody hung fish vertically. And I think it just becomes more of a popular thing, more of a public thing, people start picking that up. So I think it's, talking to your friends, obviously, and explaining that. And even just, I think, people wanting to know that information, because I think a big part of it is that people, are out there for different reasons compared to you or I. When it comes to catching fish. If you're out there eating fish, well, then that's going to be a totally different result of how that fish is being handled.
Yeah.
I think you could talk about a lot of different things. I think the biggest thing is just, researching, not being afraid to actually go and ask questions, because I think a lot of people don't care.
Yeah.
And I guess if you don't care, you're not going to find the results you want. Where we're at, it's much different because we're strictly catch and release, right? So I think, for me, it's foreign to catch a fish or to keep a fish other than for shore lunch. Obviously, I joke a lot about bonking fish and stuff, but obviously keeping the fish alive and the fishery alive is number one. Obviously not dropping the fish, holding the fish horizontally, keeping the fish in the water as long as possible. A lot of guys want to bring the fish out, throw in the boat, keep that fish in the net. For as long as possible, making sure the fish is even tangled, right? Because it's a different process, right? Keeping the fish in the net is good. Keeping the fish in the net without being tangled is a big part of it as well. Obviously with pike, when you have their gills that are closed or their heads closed shut, they aren't able to breathe properly. Keeping the fish flat in the net is a big one. And even with lake trout, that's something I'm learning about too. I always held lake trout by the gills, gill here, hand in the back, and it's kind of something I've been hearing more and more about, and it's something I can't really turn a blind eye as, but people say, biologists and whatnot, when you have your hand in the lake trout near the gill, so typically you're always holding the gill plate, which is close to your 3 gills. They say if any of your hand touches that gill, the chances of that fish dying are extremely high. The debate is how high. The new technique is not new technique, but the recommended technique is holding the lake trout by the tail and then the hand under the belly. And that's something that I'm trying to incorporate more, something that, I heard about, and I was like, what, it's in it, and I'm like, what, if that's one more extra step I could do to help, whether it's, for sure 100% true or not, why not, right? Back in the day, people hung pike vertically and weighed them, and that's something that I did. And, does every fish hung vertically die? No. But is it something that's not great for fish? I think we all can agree on that to some extent. So that's something we eliminated years ago. But yeah, I think, learning these little steps and then incorporating them and then telling other people about it. And I think it's, even how you tell people, right? Like you said, on Facebook, if you're able to mention to somebody and say something, don't do that. Well, then obviously their backs are going to be getting up and they're not going to want to listen. But if you're able to explain, hey man, holding that fish or handling that fish differently, is going to result in that fishery sustaining that fish, laying eggs, somebody else going back and catching that fish. Maybe that makes more sense as to that person, responding the way you want and handling that fish better. But it's tough. There's a lot of people I think that don't want to learn. So no matter how you say it, you're going to be hit with some stubborn people out there.
Yeah, exactly. So you get lots of the people that are like, oh, it's just a fish. Fish can't feel this. They don't this, that, other thing. And it's like, well, even if they couldn't, why would you want to even risk it, kind of thing, right? So yeah, I totally get that. You're gonna have people on both sides of the aisle. But.
And it's easy to get overboard with it, right? Because at the end of the day, and I think people need to realize this, I've happened to me where I'm spending 35 minutes on a fish to revive it that I don't know what happened and it died. If you don't want fish to die, don't go fishing, right? The reason I say that is because, I think it's, at the end of the day, we're putting sharp things into fish's mouths, right? There's going to be accidents that happen. It's one of those things where you do your best, but you got to realize that what we are doing with fish, you are harming the fish to some extent. And I think it's also, kind of taking that balance of obviously doing your best, but also realizing that accidents do happen. Obviously, dropping fish is one of them that can happen, and maybe that's me I got to realize as well. But I just see you see people going overboard with it, right? And I don't mean. Well, I think it's just having a balance to it, knowing that fish will die, but obviously there's a lot of steps we all can take to make them live.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
Well, I think that's a really good message to kind of end on. Unless anyone else have anything else to go over?
No, if somebody wanted to book a trip with you or Spark Lake Lodge, where can they find the lodge, and where can they find you if they want to toss you a follow and follow along on your journey with wolf pups and bear hunting and big lakers and all kinds of fun stuff?
Yeah, I guess it's assuming I find more wolf pups in my future. That would be a nice sidekick for the rest of my going on. So on Instagram, obviously, I'm Fecal Fishing Guide, and there I'm posting probably the most often. I do have a YouTube page as well. I think it's Zac Brown's Outdoor Adventures. Try to do consistent stuff on there. As for the fishing and the hunting, I guess if you were to reach out on Instagram, you can always find out more information about Lac La Martin Lodge. If you Google that, that's northwestterritoriesfishing.com. And then Sparks Lake Lodge. There's only one of either, so if you Google that, it's going to pop up pretty quickly. And we do 6-day trips for that, and then obviously I do hunting elsewhere as well for bear, moose, and deer. And there's always have bookings, and we always have openings if people want to take advantage of some pretty cool experiences.
For sure.
Fantastic. Well, we thank you, Zac, for taking time out of your busy evening up there in the Northwest Territories to sit down with us and talk a little bit about fishing and all the good stuff that you had to talk about. So,
you can go have supper now.
No, perfect. I appreciate it. Thanks for you guys for inviting me on, and thanks for doing what you guys do. Obviously with especially promoting conservation, which I think is a more of a becoming thing now. And if people aren't doing that, then obviously stuff doesn't survive, and we're not able to keep enjoying these things. So appreciate you guys, what you do, and the people you have on. It's a good thing you guys got going on.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have to do this again sometime.
Yes, definitely, when I have more wolf puppies or pet lake trout or something.
Sounds good. We'll talk to you
later.
Take care. Thanks again, Zac, for joining us there. It was really cool getting to talk to you. We both talked to you a fair amount on Instagram and whatnot, and so it was nice kind of as face-to-face as we can get with Zac being all the way up in the territories there. But definitely enjoyed getting to talk to him there. Lots of information, and kind of just cool getting to see what life is like a little bit through his eyes up there. It's definitely different than I'd say 99% of us are used to, and something that I think would be definitely cool for some younger kids that I've talked to that are interested in doing that. I think they'll really enjoy it.
Yeah, he's been up there. He's been in the guiding game for a long time. So definitely a cool episode to kind of hear the behind the scenes and what goes on up north there. And for any of you that are thinking about getting into guiding, we know there's a few of you that are younger that have maybe gotten a couple opportunities that are thinking about it, and it's definitely something. He's definitely a person that you can reach out to and ask him questions. He's very approachable and a pretty good guy to get to know. So we really appreciate Zac taking the time to sit down and talk with us, and we definitely thank all of you for tuning in to another Weekend Warriors Fishing podcast. This is it's been another great episode, and we definitely can't wait to bring on future guests. We have a lot of great people lined up, and definitely some episodes that you're going to want to stay tuned for.
Yeah, for sure. And just one last word here. Mention our presenting sponsors here, 13 Fishing. You can head over to their website and use our code Weekend Warriors. Save yourself some money. You can check the show notes below. Make sure you got everything typed in right for when you go to do that. Very thankful to have them on as well. So thanks again for tuning in, and we look forward to the next one.
Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to the Weekend Warriors Fishing Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to leave a review on your favorite listening platform so we can reach more anglers just like you. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for media updates and behind-the-scenes content.